Hi everyone, thank you for coming to our session. Those of you that stuck around, I know Emma is presenting. She's the only other session this round and she is amazing. So I'm glad that we kept some of you here to listen to our presentation. So I'm Jessica, this is my Cari, Cari. I'm sorry.
I can be both of those things.
We are former high school teachers. I was science, she is math, and we both kind of just fell into this Moodle role and are just loving it. It's very exciting. So a little bit of background, I realized that we did not at all put any pictures of our site or the name of our Moodle on here. So we manage what's called the Teacher Learning Hub. We are a team of 2.5 people, and our Moodle serves K-12 educators in the whole state of Montana, offering them professional development units online.
So we are going to get started with just a quick introduction about our context, and I think our context drives a lot of what we do. So first, just a show of hands, anyone been to Montana? Oh, okay, good. More people than I expected. So just a few stats about Montana. The state has 147,000 square miles, and it is large enough to fit the smallest 10 US states inside of it. We have 1 million people, averaging 6.8 people per square mile. So think about that compared to Texas, which I think has about 110 people per square mile, and then thinking about it in terms of New Jersey, which has about 1,200 people per square mile. And so as I introduced these stats to you for you to think about what types of obstacles or issues might that cause in terms of educating teachers. So think to yourself just for 30 seconds before I tell you the answer to that question. How might these things create some problems for people to do things like collaborate? So in 2013, we created the Teacher Learning Hub primarily to address the issues that arose from some of the statistics that I just talked about. So we wanted to address the challenges of distance, time, and equity of access to professional development for Montana educators. When there's only 6.86 people per square mile, you don't always have another teacher in your same content area to collaborate with. Sometimes it's really hard to get other people to come to your school and do presentations so you can learn because it's so far to travel. And I don't know about you, but we get a ton of snow in Montana, and so sometimes in those winter months, you can't really get from place to place very easily. We wanted to make sure, and the last presentation kind of segued nicely, but we want to make sure that we provide active learning, high quality content, and accessible material free for teachers across the state. We know that schools have limited access to money, and professional development, free professional development is a great way to help them with that. And then lastly, through the renewal units or credits that teachers earn through our courses, they can put those towards initial licensure and licensure renewal.
And I think kind of an unspoken one here is too, in our office, the Office of Public Education, a lot of our funding got slashed this last year. So many people that would provide PD to the schools that had a travel budget no longer have a travel budget or very limited. So this allows them to still reach out to the schools they can't meet face to face.
And so as we've mentioned previously, our audience is Montana teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, counselors, and substitute teachers. And notice that it says Montana and beyond, and that is because we reach far beyond the state of Montana, not necessarily intentionally, but we are excited that we have that reach, and then also educators who are transitioning into Montana. So here you can see a map of our Montana reach, and just to kind of give you even a bigger picture, we have 10,000 users who use our Teacher Learning Hub. About 8,000 of them are within the state of Montana. About 50 of them are actually outside the United States, and we have all 50 states represented with the exception of 4. So it's really exciting to think about our reach, and just a snippet of our reach in Montana there. You can see the cities that have over 100 users, and then the smaller ones. And what we love about this map is that we really reach the whole entire state, even the most rural schools who have maybe 3 or 4 teachers.
So this is the part I'm most excited for us to talk about is our Moodle structure. like I said, we both kind of fell into this job and we're told, like, here's this Moodle thing, can you figure out how to run this for us? And our strong belief in the active learning, like was in the H5P session, I think really has helped to drive a lot of that. So right now we have 3 types of courses. Self-paced, which is our most popular, we have 65 of those courses, range in length. And this is really handy for teachers. I think why it's so popular, they can take it anytime they want. Teachers are very busy, so if they really want, they can do it on their lunch break, they can do it on the weekend in their pajamas, whatever really works best for them. Then we also have the slightly more college-style courses, facilitated 3 to 6 weeks. They get much more renewal units for these courses, and they have those graded assignments. And then this last one, group, is a category we really want to see take off. It kind of blends that power of face-to-face that even as Moodlers, we still really believe in. You need peer collaboration. But that's where you gather a group of teachers such as this. You pull the course up on a projector, and it guides you through discussions and activities. So you still have that group collaboration, but you don't have to pay someone to come into your classroom to lead some of those sessions. And we have 9 of those group ones and about 30 facilitated courses we rotate through. And this is really where we come to our first lesson learned. We used to have 4 categories. One was a professional learning community. We had 5 or 6 of those where we tried to get those single teachers that worked in the small school districts where there was one science teacher, so they didn't have any others to collaborate with. So we had once a month they would meet online at a certain time to discuss and collaborate, but the amount of time and work we put into it and the data was showing that we weren't getting much out of it. So we had to really rely on that data to make the decision to cut those courses.
All right, so that brings us to our design process and requirements, and I think this is one of the things that we are really, really proud of, and one thing that we put a lot of time and energy into. And so, as Jess and I both mentioned, we are really adamant that we have active learning and high-quality content in all of our courses, and so all of our systems sort of drive our purpose. Or wait, backwards. Our purpose really drives all of our systems. And so the first big thing that we have is our Introduction to Course Design course. And so if you were here 2 sessions ago for the Smithsonian course, you heard something similar to this, but we have a course that's required for anyone who's going to design courses for the Teacher Learning Hub. Keep in mind that a lot of these courses are designed by Montana teachers, content experts who don't necessarily have a background in instructional design. And so we have created our Introduction to Course Design course, and it's about 8 hours, and they go through, and it really helps them to learn and explore Moodle, and it also talks a lot about instructional design. We also have developed our division of responsibilities and continuous support so that as our designers go through the process of creating Moodle courses, we can make sure that they know exactly what they do, exactly what we do, and that they know exactly how to get the support they need if they're struggling.
This is where our next lesson learned comes in. When this project first started, it was just me before I was lucky enough to have Cari join the team. But we've basically been through 5 iterations of training designers. At first, I was like begging for content and people to start using Moodle. And I was like, oh, I can just train everybody face-to-face. I totally have time for that. And that quickly changed. Also, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, I've used Moodle before. I know how to do this. And then their course would come out as a PowerPoint or 7 hours worth of video. Okay, maybe we need to revisit this a little bit. So then I started doing a mini moot style after attending the mountain moot in Helena that you referenced earlier, where it was half online and then I did half in person. But then people were like, oh, you know, I'm really busy. Can I just take everything online? Or vice versa, I only want to be taught face-to-face and not take anything online. And so that kind of worked. And that kind of melded into our first designer course, which was pretty short, and that didn't last very long. I quickly revamped after learning some issues in there. So then our 1.0 version, I call it, is actually phasing out this week, and we will launch a 2.0 version, which is very similar to what Mia talked about at the Smithsonian earlier, that we're very, very excited about. And we're happy to share that for anybody who wants it. It has a lot of hub-specific things in it about our specific review process, which Cari will talk about in a moment, but could be easily customized.
All right, so along with our course designer course, all of our courses go through a review process. And we think that this is really important to make sure that they are consistently high quality and they have that active learning that we really want. So the first review is a designer review. So we ask designers to use our checklist that we've created to go through their own course and double check that it meets our expectations. Then a project lead review, so someone on our team, or maybe one of us, who actually leads the content areas. So for example, mathematics courses are going to go through our mathematical instructional coordinator, and she's going to do a review of the course to make sure the content is right, and then also to double check that it has that active learning, et cetera. Then it goes through accessibility and copyright review. This is huge for us. We are not an educational institution, and so copyright is a beast sometimes. We have to make sure we follow really strict guidelines around what we can use. And then obviously accessibility is super important for us to make sure that all of our courses are completely accessible to all of our learners across the state. And then lastly, or maybe second to lastly, sort of, it comes to Jess and I, and we do a full review of all of the settings and make sure that it's 100% good to go and to open and launch. And then we sort of just added this. As of this year, we go through an annual review process with each course. So once a course is launched and it is open for a year, we come back to it again with another checklist that we've developed, and we double check to make sure the content is still relevant, make sure that the links are still working, make sure accessibility is still there, et cetera, et cetera. And so this comes to our next lesson learned, and that is that in order to make sure that you are efficient, it is really important to have this standard process and to make sure that every single course goes through it in a really iterative way so that you're not wasting time having to go back and fix different areas of courses that maybe didn't meet the standard initially.
So for this, we use the Reich project management software. We kind of developed our own workflow and phasing that people can check off when they're done and send it to us versus seeing them in the hallway, say, hey, my course is ready, and then 2 weeks later we realize we forgot about it and need to get in there. So that project management software has been huge in helping us move forward. Cari mentioned this a minute ago, accessibility and copyright. Two different unique challenges. Accessibility, as teachers, we were kind of trained a little bit about this and knew you couldn't use crazy text, had to have closed captioning. But then our agency was hit, not the Learning Hub, but the agency that we're housed under was hit with a complaint from the Office of Civil Rights. And so we really dived into accessibility. There's a group of University of Montana who is amazing with accessibility. I learned a lot from them, did a lot of research. So we've had to do a ton of improvements to our courses, but we've had people who are blind and use screen readers take our courses and been able to get through. We've had lots of tests. We actually have a full 1-hour course that all designers have to take now on accessibility before they can get their own shell and create their own course, which we're happy to share if you're interested in that. And then copyright kind of came by accident, but again, we are a government agency, not an education institution, so we have to be very careful with documenting that copyright. I think our designers might mumble under their breath at us a little bit for both of these, because they are tough, but it makes for a very good product in the end. So I'm going to have to cruise through our data and success stories. When I took over this project in 2015, I expected it to take 3 to 4 years for it to really take off. And it only took about a year before it exploded on me. And then we had to get approval for funding for Cari so we could keep going. And it's been really great since. Over 10,000 users. People spent about 22,000 hours taking courses on the Hub last year. So far this year, about through our first quarter, at 5,000 hours. Our goal really is to impact as many of the schools in Montana as we can. So last fiscal year, we hit about 69% of our schools, 70% of our reservation schools, and 68% of our high needs. And high needs we base on, if any of you work with school data, the free and reduced lunch population. And then our rural areas, which are really our school districts with less than 300 students, we want to focus on them because those are the teachers that tend to have less access to professional development. One of our big success stories, we have a course, Introduction for Indian Education for All, that is now an administrative rule in Montana that all teachers have to take this course before they can get their license, or if they're transferring from out of state, they have to take this course. So it's a really good look into our Native American population and culture in Montana, and introduces the importance of including their culture in education. So this is one of the quotes from those courses. Would you read that? And I'm down to 10 seconds. So very quickly, these mental health courses, Montana has a very high suicide rate, so it's important to us to make sure we have a lot of courses to help support teachers in that. Quote there, but I'm gonna have to jump ahead. I'm happy to share this with anyone later. So get to our ending slide here.
Yeah, so I know we put a lot out there, but any questions right off the top of your head? Yeah.
Can we have the
Sorry.
microphone first, please?
Sorry.
You mentioned a project management software. What was the name of that?
Wrike. It's W-R-I-K-E.
Any other quick questions before we all head to lunch?
I have one last thing. If you know of anybody in your state who has something similar for educators, we would love to collaborate and share with them. We're working with Rhode Island right now. They're starting up their own Moodle to do the same with teachers. But if you could connect us with anyone in your states, I would love that.
So you can grab Jessica and Cari after this presentation, maybe after lunch, but let's just thank them for their great work.
Thank you.